Richie Allen Show, broadcasting live, of course, on davidicke.com, Fab Radio 2 and Alternate Current Radio. Our next guest hasn't been with us in a year. That's extraordinary. No idea why. She's a remarkable woman. Incredible, really. She's got one of those resumes that if I began reading it out, it would get us to the end of the programme. She's a terrific journalist, writer and researcher, and author, of course. Her book, Chemtrails, HAARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, is an outstanding read, and it's the reason that I was introduced to her a couple of years ago. She's also been a piano teacher, lecturer, and she's done many things, written for many publications about MK Ultra and satanic ritual abuse. We love her, and it's about time we had her back on. Elana Freeland, welcome back.
Thanks, Richie, and thanks for saying I'm such a great piano teacher, which I'm not.
Well, you were anyway, or are a piano teacher, right?
No, that's someone else. No way. No, I can still play one song from the years of piano I had.
How did how did that get into your bio?
I don't know, but it was good. I liked it.
Well, thanks for clearing it up. Honesty is always the best policy. Look, it is brilliant to have you on, because I had a look at we're having a look at things, and I saw that you hadn't been on since last summer, and I thought, wow, that's kind of incredible, because a lot of things have been happening since then for you, and I know that you've continued to work. I know that there's a sequel in the pipeline for your book, of course, which we'll talk about as well. The smart grid, the rollout of that. What's been happening recently for you, Elana? I know you've been doing a lot of radio, and you've been talking a lot about HAARP, weather modification, DARPA technology, the Pentagon. Tell us what's been going on.
Right, it's really all around the Space Fence book now, Richie. I finished it in October, and the publisher was to bring it out in September, but has delayed it until January 2018. So I'm now going back through it for a fourth edit to make it even better. It's called Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And this will be the book that shows what the next step of the ionized atmosphere created by the chemical trails being zapped with radio frequency on a daily level to produce weather systems and for other military agendas, what they have to do with each other. The Space Fence itself is now, they're announcing it. They're announcing it in terms of how it's going to count the space debris above to protect our satellites. But it is really about much more, and it has a very, very vast ground system connected to what is being laid in the near-Earth orbit. And that, for a lot of this, Richie, I have to thank Billy Hayes, the HAARP man, who directed me in this direction about 2 years ago of the Space Fence, and that I needed to study it. And wow, I'm amazed. In fact, what's new for me is that not only is there this sequel of the Under an Ionized Sky about the Space Fence and what it has to do with the ionized atmosphere, but I see now how it's connected to what we have breathed in and what is in our blood system, in our that has jumped beyond the blood-brain barrier and in our brain, and what this has to do with synthetic biology and a transhumanist future.
I'm so glad.
That'll be the third book.
I'm so glad you said that, because when I announced you were coming back on the programme today, almost I got an avalanche of emails, and people said, will you ask Elana to talk about something that when they mention it to their friends, Elana, their friends think they're cuckoo, they've gone completely crazy. But a lot of our listeners believe is that along with aluminium, barium, strontium and the other heavy metals being sprayed out, there are nanobots. People really believe this. and some very clever people and some very rational people believe that nanobots are being put into the atmosphere to be ingested by people. Do you want to talk about that and speak to those questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that goes back to the work in the late 90s and early 2000s of Clifford Carnicom, the independent scientist in northern New Mexico at that time, who was a close friend of mine when I was living in New Mexico. And that's how I really got involved in all this, Richie, was through Clifford. We would sit and talk about what he was discovering in the particulates coming down in precipitation, in snow, in rain. He would talk about his HEPA filter collecting fibers, very tiny fibers that he then had to get bigger and bigger microscope power in order to see and analyze. He's the one who first talked about the Morgellons creature, and some people pronounce it Morgellons. I don't think it really matters, that had 5 parts to it and came down in a fiber, which was sort of an encasement of the other 4 smaller parts. And he's done a great deal of research on that. I highly recommend that people go to his site, carnicominstitute.org, in order to see how scientifically, and he's a taskmaster when it comes to scientific method, how on a shoestring budget he was able to do so much to alert us to what we were breathing in. Yeah, I remember the night that he had my blood sample and my spit, and we put the blood sample under a 300 power microscope, and there I saw the Morgellons creature, and it is very much genetically engineered. I saw it sucking the iron out of my red blood cells. And actually, my red blood cells at that time looked better than anyone else in the, at that time, very small sample of 25 or 30 people. So this is real. And that's the moment I realized, okay, this is real. And what we're dealing with is a technology that operates in the invisible, not just in the nano scale and the micron scale, by which you need really sophisticated technologies, expensive technologies in order to see. But we also are dealing with waves and particles, the 2 forms of energy that are now being locked down, are being controlled, and are moving into more sophisticated warfare, ways of not just controlling space or near Earth orbit, or even on the ground, various nations and typical warfare, but controlling humanity and life itself. This is real. And as far as the nanobots, that's just another fancy name for a genetically engineered entity that is very tiny and impossible to see with the human eye.
This is really huge, this. And we do have a lot of listeners listening on commercial radio here in Manchester. And many of them, they shake their heads when we talk about these subjects, and they leap to the conclusion, and they're entitled to their opinion. I don't deny anybody their right to their opinion, but they reach the conclusion that this is insane. And why would Richie be talking about this, and why would you do this? It isn't insane, because as Elana knows better than I do, this agenda is out basically in the wide open. Ray Kurzweil, for example, the Google researcher, has been talking about, the director of engineering at Google, has been talking about, the release of smart dust that people will inhale. He's been talking about basically the transmodification, or the transhumanist agenda that Elana writes about and talks about so much in her books, that, in 25 years' time, we'll be uploading our brain, we'll all be part of a cloud. It's all there. It's all right there. And I used to think this was crazy as well. I used to think chemtrails was a nonsense, and there was a time when I wouldn't speak about it. And then I met a wonderful man from Maui called Bruce Douglas. And Bruce has done a remarkable work on soil sample analysis in Maui. and was able to show, 10 times, 12 times, 15 times soil samples with 15 times the amount of these heavy metals and these other things that that should ordinarily be present in soil samples. And I met a woman who had Morgellons. And just on Morgellons, Elana, when some people react very badly to it, that is understandable. Some people will, I suppose the vast majority of people will not have the very severe reaction to Morgellons, where we see the lesions and we see the fibres under the skin visibly. That does happen, of course, but the majority of people that won't happen to. Is that right? We just won't be aware of it.
Well, yes, and it's a real question in my mind. I haven't had any outbreaks, but I also have, Clifford and I discovered through his health, I put him on the diet I've followed for over 35, 40 years, a macrobiotic diet, not religiously macrobiotic, but very macrobiotic in the sense of I studied Chinese medicine for 6 years and think in terms of yin yang, which is basically a fancy way of saying acid alkaline when it comes to diet. And what we discovered was, and it was Clifford who discovered it, but I'm the one who sort of alerted him to the possibility that the Morgellons creature is programmed to really love acidity and hate, in a way, alkalinity. It will not reproduce or grow in an alkaline environment. It will tremendously reproduce and grow in an acidic environment. So what I've recommended to people is not necessarily to be macrobiotic, but to get some of that pH paper and check their urine in the morning to see where they're at on the scale of pH, and start studying the foods that produce alkalinity in the process of oxidation in the body, and the ones that produce acidity. And it's not always straightforward. So it's a matter of experimentation. And I think that's where we're at, is a lot of people are experimenting with their own bodies, people with outbreaks, people without outbreaks, who believe that this is really going on. And we're looking at baths. I know that Tony, I always say his name wrong, Pedascalero, and he's fantastic. Richie, if you haven't heard him, you should have him on your show. He's got all kinds of ideas: ionizing foot baths, a bath with Epsom salts, borax, and sea salt. All of the things that pull the nanos out of the body, and along with the Morgellons, I call that a nano as well. It's a nanobot. There are other nanobots that have been released into the upper atmosphere and are falling to the earth for us to breathe. But if you're saying, if your viewers, your listeners are thinking, they're doing this to kill us, I don't think that's true. I think some depopulation, this would be perfect for a depopulation move, and that may be in the cards as well. But at this point, I say that we're being used as guinea pigs to just see what happens. And of course, these people can hire hackers who can hack into hospital records, doctor records, clinic records, your own computer, whatever. And they're very interested in seeing how we evolve. This has to do with the transhumanist future. Who is able to evolve to handle this? Who is finding methods for survival? And what are those methods, and are they working? I mean, even Clifford himself in the early days, he had a way of telling the ISPs of the people visiting his site. And they were all Department of Defense agencies and intelligence agencies. They were all coming to his site to see just what he could come up with in reinventing the wheel that they already had all the answers to. And I think this is still going on.
We've got Elana Freeland on the line, folks. A number of questions coming in about Elon Musk and the global Wi-Fi grid run from space. This is massive as well, Elana. Connect the dots to what we were just talking about. 4,000 satellites to be launched to cover the Earth in a Wi-Fi cage, I suppose you could call it. What's going on with that? Why should people be concerned about it?
Well, that is my primary interest now is the space fence operation, and we actually saw this, but didn't know what we were looking at back in the early '80s when under the Reagan, Cheney, Bush regime, we had the Strategic Defense Initiative, the SDI program. We called it Star Wars because the Star Wars movies, the first three had come out from 1977 and on. So this was sort of an announcement of a space age, but then suddenly they pulled it back. And it became known as the Ballistic Defense Missile Program under Clinton, who followed that George H.W. Bush's regime. Actually, no, that followed the Reagan regime. I always think that because George H.W. Bush really ran Reagan's administration. That's right. With Cheney. So it was tabled. And only now that I wrote the Chemtrails HARP book and deconstructed Bernard Eastland's original patent for HARP, did I realize that that what they lacked was this ionized atmosphere. That HARP experiments were able, and HARP's tremendous power, were able to clarify and get going. What they did is they pulled energy from the ionosphere down into our lower atmosphere. And that's why we see the jets flying every day with whatever is classified in their fuel and possibly with supplementary tanks on board. We're seeing the necessity to keep pumping the mini ionosphere that our atmosphere has become. And the reason it has to be done is not to kill us, not to do anything. We're just collateral damage to a military program. What they want is to keep the atmosphere like an antenna, ionized, electrified, battery ready for all of the different operations that they have going now, because we are living in an electromagnetic era of the space age. And so the space fence that is now has been announced, and they're building a new installation on the Kwajalein Atoll out in the Marshall Islands. They have plenty of things in the United States. They have other, there are over 1,500 bases around the world. There are radar stations and many things that serve this space fence operation now that the atmosphere is perfect, primed for these electromagnetic operations. And so the space fence part of it, besides the ground level instruments that I go very deeply into in the space fence book, above the planet, yes, this is important because what's happening is, and Elon Musk definitely plays into this, these sounding rockets and private rockets that are zooming into space, into the near-Earth orbit. These sounding rockets, and that's just a term they use this is for research. It's got something to do with, they've got sensors on it, they've got microprocessors there. They're maybe unleashing trillions of sensors up there while the rocket is going up. They're also the rocket is spewing behind it aluminum oxide, nanoparticles, lithium, titanium, strontium, the usual culprits. And the reason that formula of the rocket fuel is so similar to that which is being spewed from jets, commercial and military, is because they want a contiguous connection between what we have in our lower atmosphere and what is in near Earth orbit, so that there's no demarcation between the two. It's just a continuation, and that in itself, which is above the planet, what happens because of centrifugal force of the Earth spinning, is that spins and spins and spins, and eventually settles into a ring around the equator that looks amazingly like a Saturn ring. And that's the key. They want this all to work together. And it's all for what the military calls C4, command, control, communications, and cyber warfare. And within that little simple formula of command and control, you have this idea of space communication. So, for example, what's up there looking at Saturn right now? What's looking at Mars right now? Communication with those vessels that we send into space. They've also been working on the Van Allen belt to get a way through it, so that we can send people up, because heretofore you'd need to wear a heavy lead-lined spacesuit and line the entire vessel with lead, because that radiation has prevented everything thus far. At least in rockets. I'm not going to go into possible scalar events. This is about space communication, and more important to us here on Earth, it appears to be a tremendous surveillance instrument whereby everyone, especially, all the people who've breathed in the nanobots that are highly conductive, that can be remotely communicated with, that can be remotely programmed, we are all subject to this metallic lockdown via a space fence global instrument run by AI, artificial intelligence. That's how I see it.
And the rollout then of smart meters. Now, I think locally, where the studio is based, most domiciles, most houses around here have been converted. So the old gas meter and the old electricity meter is gone for most people, Elana. They've got smart meters now. I don't yet. But if the owner of the property I rent decides to go for it, there isn't very much I can do about it, only move. But I'm lucky enough that right now they're old-fashioned meters. So these things are sold with these great benefits. Your bills will be more accurate. Don't worry about inaccurate bills. We get an accurate reading of how much electricity and how much gas you're using. It's all very good. So they're sold with these great benefits. But really, the rollout of smart meters is directly connected to what you've just been talking about there, right?
Absolutely. And the smart meter, the way I look at it, and I just finished re-editing the section in the Space Fence book on smart meters, so it's fresh in my mind. The smart meter, put it with the Internet of Things, the IoT it's called. And that's your refrigerator now has a computer, your telephone, of course, all the electrical instruments in your home have some sort of microprocessor in them, which is another way of saying a tiny computer. So what the smart meter was designed to do is to collect all of the IoT communiques, yes, energy levels, energy use, but also the possibility of microphones in it, also visuals, cameras, and just to turn the entire home into a mini concentration camp of spying. And then that smart meter collects that data and is, of course, a two-way instrument. It also, and then can communicate it to whatever places in England you have that are collecting data on citizens. And then the other thing is that it's constantly pulsing. So it'll tell you that it's only communicating a couple times a day, but the truth is it's pulsing every 2 to 4 seconds. And that pulsing is tremendously harmful to our Schumann resonance, to our normal human resonance, because we're the kinds of creatures who will, if there's something electromagnetic that has a pulse rate near us, even if we can't see it, our body will take it up. It's just how we're made. We're easily influenced by what's called cyclotronic resonance, and that, of course, is part of HAARP's capability and other ionospheric heaters, all operating in concert. They are able to produce a cyclotronic resonance that may even change the signature of life on Earth. Ours right now is the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. What if it changes it? Will that change life? Oh, yes. Yes, it will.
This is massive as well. And one of the reasons I was really keen to connect with you again, Elana, apart from the fact that it's been so long since you were on and it was about time that you came back, but some of our listeners will know, some of them won't know. Again, this is to support what Elana is saying, because there are people listening to this program through commercial radio, and they're not used to hearing this sort of information. They haven't been exposed to this information before, so they think it is crazy. They think it's crazy conspiracy theory. The Financial Times reporting this week a story that was reported by the BBC earlier this month. DeepMind, which is the artificial intelligence company owned by Google, was given access to the personal medical records of over 1.5 million British patients by the NHS. Think about that for a minute. Why would artificial intelligence companies be given access to the personal medical records of over 1.5 million British people without their consent? Completely illegal.
Right.
You know, and I eventually get tongue-tied because the horrors of that, of the National Health Service compromising the data of its patients and giving it to an artificial intelligence company owned by Google. And yet still people will listen to programs like this and say, oh, this is crazy stuff, this conspiracy theory. Speak about that. Talk to us about that. DeepMind getting access to medical records.
Well, and I'm wondering now that you brought that up, if that has to do with the recent cyber hack that happened. That I remember England being mentioned for its hospital records were completely taken captive, and there was a blackmail situation where the hacker said that, you know, I can give these back, but not until you send me X amount of Bitcoins. I'm just wondering if that was a false flag event to justify AI companies like this one you're mentioning to access hospital records. I mean, usually they have to have some sort of cover story as to why they're doing it.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because the story was actually first broken a year ago by the BBC.
Oh, okay. So that's not what it was.
No, but it's interesting that the Financial Times has been writing about it this week.
Because of that hack. I'm sure that's why, Richie.
Because
it was
the
a
hack,
huge
possibly,
hack.
yeah.
I mean, 750,000 sites down around the world. Huge.
It's interesting. Yeah, you go back to May 2016, a year ago. The BBC reported through the New Scientist publication that Google was given access to over 1.5 million NHS patient records. At the time, there wasn't a lot said about it, other than the data was given of patients from the Royal Free Barnet and Chase Farm hospitals in London, going back over 5 years, to develop an app known as Streams, that will alert doctors when someone is at risk of developing kidney injury. That was reported last year, but it's back in the news again this week. I think you're absolutely right because of the hack. How incredible. But to be giving DeepMind, at any time access an AI company to the data of millions of people without their consent is absolutely disgraceful. And, we can speculate, and we're entitled to speculate why they would be given access to that data. What are they really developing?
Yes.
Crazy stuff, isn't it? It's exactly.
I agree.
It's exactly.
Yeah, I want to go into. I mean, people hear this and they think it's crazy, but then the other people are thinking, oh my gosh, how fearful they can be. And to me, and maybe I'm just hardened because I research this stuff all the time. But I've had my moments of weeping. I've had my moments of feeling absolutely overwhelmed. But now I see myself as a warrior, and I guess my latest mantra is, not on my watch. I mean, this is my life. I chose to be here in some way to really go through this tremendous transition from one America and world to another. Completely different. It's really changed immensely here in my lifetime. But not on my watch to me means, all right, I'm going to find out about this. I'm going to arm myself with knowledge. I believe that knowledge is power. Scientia est potentia. I remind people all the time, especially people who don't like to read and don't like to think too much or too deeply. This is a fantastic opportunity, this time of ours, where yes, technology, expensive, big tech like CERN in Switzerland is riding high, and we who believe in a democratic way of life are riding low. Yes, this is true. But I imagine people felt similarly in the Middle Ages when they lived with the power of the Catholic Church and the Inquisition. So I think every time has its challenge, and so I, just to meet my challenge on my watch, I really want to understand this. I want to understand it to the degree I can. And when people say, oh, yeah, but you're not a physicist and you don't have a PhD in plasma physics, I don't think there's anywhere in any public university you could go to study what is happening now under secrecy. I don't think there's anywhere you could go. You might pick up a few tips, and you might understand a few scientific concepts better. But this is an era of plasma, the fourth state of matter. This is an electromagnetic era in which we now have pettas and tetras, which are the tiny, 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 tiny waves that can shatter our DNA. There are many dangers now, yes, but I tend to think every era has its enemy, or has its enemy to freedom and to what being human is really about. And I just feel that I just feel much more powerful now that I know things, and that I'm not subject to the fear that they're promulgating in the headlines all the time. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying, Richie?
I get it completely. Of course, the big challenge is to reach as many people as possible with the information, presented to them in a way that they are prepared to listen to it. I wouldn't patronize anybody by saying that we should present it to them in a way that they understand, because that's a patronizing thing. I think we should present it in a way that they might just consider it. And there's an abundance of evidence to support this. Entry-level evidence I'm talking about the manipulation of the ionosphere, the manipulation of the atmosphere, weather modification technology. All of that is out there. The smart technology, the smart dust, the transhumanist agenda, which is out in the open now. All of that evidence is there for people to just get their teeth into and say, well look, I can get this much, and then move on to the bigger whys and the bigger purposes and reasons for it, which, as you said, Elana, is multifaceted anyway. There are so many reasons for this agenda. You know, I happened to have on the program last week a researcher from Germany who was one of the first developers of artificial intelligence technology, and he's still hugely involved in developing AI technology. And you know, I said let's get him on the program. His name is Jürgen Schmidhuber, and you know, he's a scientist who believes and genuinely believes in this being of great benefit to humanity. And I said, look, we've got to engage with these people because they're not the spawn of the devil. These researchers, these men and women, they're not. So he came on the program and we had a really good back and forth about, you know, the agenda behind it. And of course, he doesn't get that and he doesn't believe it. But I thought to myself, we've got to engage with these people. We've got to do that because compartmentalization means that many of the men and women working on this technology, they're not aware of the end game, Elana.
No, because it's compartmentalized. You're right.
Yeah, they haven't a clue, do they? Well, I won't say that they don't have a clue. These are very clever men and women who are there at the birth of this technology, and they get very excited about helping children with no limbs walk again, somebody who's blind to implant something to help them see again, and they're caught up in the development of these technologies for the benefit of humanity, but they don't understand where it ultimately goes.
Oh, don't mind that. That's my phone. I don't know how to turn it off.
That's your answer machine, is it? All right, okay. But we have to, I think we have to understand better that not everybody working in these companies is a shill or is evil or is hell-bent on transhumanism. These are people who go to work every day and believe that ultimately they're doing some good. What?
Yeah, for AI, may I recommend someone for you to bring on your show?
Go ahead.
Her name is DJ Walsh, and she was the person who taught us in America about some of the military exercises going on under AI. She is a former systems analyst, so she knows her stuff. I highly recommend her. She would be a good balance to Mr. Schmidt.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll certainly look her up. Yeah, I mean, we put all the points to Mr. Schmidhuber. You know, we put all the things that we're concerned about to him. You know, I mean, ultimately, I'm of the view, Elana, is that a lot of this technology is to move us yet another step beyond understanding who we really are. Anyway, you know, this virtual reality technology. I mean, you can't go out now without seeing children with these virtual reality goggles connected to their smartphones. And of course, this is how they're selling it to children. And, you know, we feel very strongly that we're already one step removed already from understanding who it is we really are, you know, infinite awareness. And this technology moves us another step back. I don't know what you think of that.
Well, and to me, it's about free will, right? I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, have been for decades, and I believe that the human being is a work in progress, is actually a very high hierarchy, comes from a high hierarchy of free will, which is very unique in any spiritual persuasion or spiritual edifice, like in the ancient Vedas or, you know, the ancient Hindu documents thousands of years ago. Free will is something that is very Western. And to me, it's extremely precious. And to me, that's what I see coming is trying to, through electromagnetics, undermine the human being's birthright to decide and to choose, even to choose wrongly. I think that they use the term hive mind, and the hive mind, of course, makes us think of ants and bees, and I understand that way of seeing that if you could just do a sort of 1984 hive mind, if you could pulse it on frequencies, stack some frequencies on pulses, and pump them into, say, an urban center, you could produce great violence. You could also produce equanimity. You could produce a sort of laissez-faire, who cares attitude. This is all known. These signatures, these emotional signatures and clusters in us are known, and it makes us feel, when you first hear about this, makes us feel like, wow, what kind of free choice can I have if an electromagnetic instrument can make me do whatever it wants? And this is, of course, a problem. Yes. How does that fit in with our free will? And certainly those instruments should not be allowed as people are floundering around trying to find out how to be a true human being. This is the great question to me. We're vulnerable. We're very frail, especially now when we're so distracted by, oh, cool, a new movie, and oh, a new iPhone. The 5G phone is coming out soon that can shatter our DNA and the DNA into future generations. We have no knowledge of electromagnetics. No one's teaching us about it. No one wants us to know about how it works.
Studies. You're right. You're absolutely right.
So what are we going to do? Are we just going to lay down like fish and die? Well, I don't think so. I think we have tremendous capabilities to learn from each other, and that we owe it to the future generations. This is our watch. We owe it to the future generations who are coming. And I certainly do not want AI running this world. Absolutely not. I hope, Richie, when my Space Fence book comes out, you read the chapter I have on CERN. It's entitled, it'll give you a clue, The Temple of CERN. And I see that the occultists involved in the global elite, in the scientific world, in various possibly higher echelons of government agencies, which aren't what they seem. All of these people who have more in mind than profit and career. They want to experiment on the human being. They want to see if the human being can be run by an AI, if an AI can evolve far beyond the human intelligence. It's all a matter of wanting to see if they can do it, and it's always been this way. Very little foresight, very little testing. We've got lots of these guinea pigs called human beings in societies, so we can just practice on them and see what happens. This is the real shallow mindset of Western science. And I always remember what in ancient times, I can't remember who said it, but regarding alchemy, that Rudolf Steiner certainly said that regarding alchemy, that you need to take 2 steps forward in moral development before taking 1 step forward in science.
Absolutely.
And that is certainly not being done now.
It certainly is not. And just to endorse what you said there about free will, Barry Trower, who's been on this program several times as well, has done a lot of work on the use of the technology to control the minds, as you have in your own research and writing, to control the minds of targeted individuals, something we'll return to on this program again in the very near future. We're just about out of time, sadly. The time has absolutely flown by. I look forward to the new book, Elana. I just want to plug again, Chemtrails HAARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth is an outstanding and a very important book written by Elana Freeland. You can, of course, find Elana on Facebook. There are no other Elana Freelands. She is the only one on Facebook. So far, yeah. You can find her on there. Vitally important work and vitally important information. This has been great catching up with you again, Elana. We won't leave it as long before we do it again. And thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much.
Look after yourself. Bye for now. The terrific Elana Freeland on the line to us there at exactly 9 minutes to the top of the hour. Going to take a very quick break. Back.